and welcome back to our Coaching Couch TV. Today we are talking about conflicts. So I'm sure many of us have faced some situation in life, at work, where we are presented with a conflict situation. So we'll be talking about why it's happening and what we can do to resolve conflicts. Well, we have in the studio Jessie Lynn is coming back. Hello, Jessie Lynn.
Hello.
Welcome back. Nice to see you again.
Oh, it's nice to see you too.
We might have some other guests joining, but maybe a bit later. But let's start. Um, Tell me, have you ever had conflict situation?
I think if you're a human being, you've had conflict.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Internal, which I think exacerbates the external.
Hmm. And have you succeeded in any way? Maybe later in life when you just, became more aware of yourself or um, more mature. How did it help?
I think how I view it now is completely different. I think I have better self-awareness in how I'm showing up to a situation or understanding a situation or my role. And I think that that's impacted me a lot because before I would look at the situation or the person and think they were the cause of the way that I was
Mhm.
feeling. And now I come from a lens of I'm I'm the one who's there can be no other person that is the cause of it. It's my interpretation of their choices or actions. So that's helped. The other thing that I've realized is I'm not responsible for how somebody receives something.
Mhm.
And probably the third and final thing I would say is that I think one of the big things I've learned in trying to resolve conflict from a non coaching perspective, just personally in life, is that if you're not willing to come to the table and sit down, then you're more attached to your story than you are about resolving the issue.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, the majority of conflicts happen because of ego,
Mm-hmm.
uh, perception, and misunderstanding as well.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all about communication, how we trying to communicate with others, or others trying to communicate with us. But even when we see a lack of communication from other side, we kind of need to try from our side and
Yeah.
see if one of those reasons were the the major player of our conflict. Because when we same as in relationships or
Mm.
in life, whether strangers or not, it's mostly about perception. We perceive either the problem or the person in a way that creates conflict.
Definitely. That and our expectation. Like we create the expectation
Hmm.
and then we like hold other people to the standard of our expectation. And often when I'm talking to couples or people who are really in a challenging situation, it's because they've created this expectation, but they didn't articulate it or get buy-in from the other person. And then they hold them accountable for it. So if you switch that a little bit into the expectation into an agreement, so you're both
Hmm.
very, very clear. I think that that's something.
Yeah, and sometimes those people are not even aware that they being held to some
Yeah,
expectations.
right. Yeah, yeah. What I tell my son is like always, even if you're so sure about something, leave 1%. Like always be curious,
Hmm.
because you'll either learn more about your own kind of perception of what's happening, or you might change your mind or better understand the other side of
Hmm.
it.
As well as ask questions, have
Yeah.
a conversation, because again, misunderstanding leads to so many. conflicts, and we just build up instead of clearing up the issue. We just build up on that, and we're
Yeah.
taking things personally.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from before, I would certainly listen to respond rather listen to understand, and that's
Mhm.
a shift as well. I think an important one in coaching is the listening, of course. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think it's not only in coaching.
True.
It's a life lesson when you start listening another person just to understand their
Yeah.
point of view. Yeah, it really helps. And plus, as you say, stay curious because we have such a different personalities, all of us. There is no the same person anywhere else. We're
Yeah.
individuals. We're so different. So it's even interesting to learn. Like, why do you think this way? Like, what led you to this conclusion? Share
Hmm.
with me. Try to make me understand as well. It's much
I think
better.
it's important to know both for the other person, but also for yourself when you're coming into a conversation where it could, it could be challenging. Um, Knowing, like, do you have a busy mind? Are you in a low, like, is your quality of thinking low? Because then
Hmm.
you're probably not going to show up as your best self.
Hmm.
Um, and same for the other person. So,
Yeah. We also have different conflict behaviors.
mm,
And I remember we did a test. There are tests available online that you can try and see where exactly, which category are you
yeah.
fitting in. I'll share the screen now just to give an idea. As a result of the test, this is something that you will be faced with. So you will have 5 categories and you will fit somewhere in 2. I don't think there's please correct me if I'm wrong, Jessie Lynn. I don't think there is like one category for a person.
Yeah, no, I think
There
that,
are 2 or 3 even when they are by percentage. So something will be higher by percentage. But this is where you will know a little bit more about yourself if you're the person who will go into compromises or someone who will be avoiding conflict as well.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and then competing, collaboration, accommodating. Um, have you done this test? I think we did it
Mhm, I
during
think we
our
did. Yeah, in our
yeah,
training.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember yours?
Yes. I think I'm definitely I could triangulate the bottom three, but
Mm-hmm.
more on the bottom two, avoiding and accommodating.
Mm, okay, so you're a nice person.
I
Yay!
don't know.
Yeah. Well, there is nothing bad in accommodating or avoiding or compromising. It's the way people just deal with conflicts or deal with life as well. It's the
What were yours? Do you remember?
um. Well, yeah, mine was collaborating, compromising, and competing. Yeah, I'm a bit. I don't remember percentages. Yeah,
Mm,
but it was interesting. So I think, um, well, competition also not a bad thing when it brings positive results,
I guess, yeah, if
not
it's
the
healthy.
negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because when I was reading for today episode, I was getting into positive and negative aspects of conflict.
Mm,
So, well, negative, it's probably obvious. We tried,
yeah.
we felt, we know how it feels to be in a conflict, either giving or receiving side, because we can be also
Mm,
the ones who start in it. But yeah, there are positive sides as well. Like if to resolve a conflict, you will find any new way of collaboration or new way of dealing, resolving it. So it creates even strong bond sometimes,
Yeah.
and people start working together much better because they find a way. If you can go through difficult time with each other through the conflict, then it's easier to work later, and things. Well, having said about positive and negative sides, how you, Jesseline, help? What do you advise to your clients? I know that we don't give advices, but how would
Yeah.
you lead them during coaching session?
One of my favorite models is the switching perspectives. I
Oh
think it's so
yes,
powerful. Um,
yes,
and I didn't realize, like, I actually, when we did our training,
I remember.
man,
Yes.
it was such a, to be on the receiving end of that. And I love it because I think it's really beneficial for somebody to look at things from their own perspective, and then to really, like, get into the space of the other person from your perspective. But
Hmm.
I also love the observer, because
Yeah.
you have to look at things. So I love that. I really enjoy that one. What about you?
Well, I love that too. Um, Before we go into others, because like you and I, we know what switching perspective is,
Mm,
but can you please explain to viewers what is the
yeah.
chair one, chair two, chair two, three?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think I've heard it being called a couple of different things. Like, one of them is switching perspectives, and then the other one, I think as we learned it, was the three chairs.
Hmm.
I'm going to look it up here. So basically, what it is that um, you get somebody to start off in the one chair, and they're sharing their experience, and then the second chair is when they have to put themselves as the other person in the situation and speak from that perspective, or as they would see it from that perspective. And then after, I think it was 2 minutes or whatever we did, and then the third one is where you're the observer. So it's just like you're watching this, you're the fly on the wall, and what you would be saying as the observer watching both of these. And I think it's just such a
Hmm.
powerful thing.
Hmm. Because you don't look at it from only one perspective as yours. This is my
Hmm.
situation, and this is how I see it. You try to see it from different perspective, yes. And
Yeah, and it's really trying to get into the head of the other person, you
mhm,
know?
I think this really a great tool to promote empathy.
Yeah, or compassion, like,
And
even like
yes,
sitting there in somebody else's um, space.
hmm,
Yeah.
grow yeah, going some through something difficult, and you just, yeah, that's a great one. Mine is, I like CIA.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not a three-letter agency in the US. I'll just share the screen. We'll go through that as well. Oh, I didn't open it. Okay, just a second. We're done with that. Just bear with me a little bit. This is one. Let's try. Okay, yes. So this is the CIA. I'll scroll it a bit. So when we face some difficult situation, or we face a conflict as well, so there are the things that we can do. We can sit with ourselves and weigh these three components of the CIA model. You can sit and decide if there's anything in the situation you have control of. So anything you can do about it. Also, is there anything that you can influence? If any of this, C and I, are no, the last option is for you to accept and adapt. So there are, as we say, there are no situation without the answer. You just need to look for it.
Mm,
So CIA can be used in well, difficult situation that we are worrying and being a bit of uh, excited about that happens in the future. We're anxious about thinking about something that happened, something that will happen. It's also the same for situation that already happened.
yeah. I think it's a really good like way to kind of have a conversation with somebody, but it's also a really good reflective piece as well to sit and
Hmm.
think about it. I
Hmm.
just think there's this I just think it's a win in life if you can always stay curious. Even if it's in places where you're uncomfortable, and often in conflict we're uncomfortable. We're
Hmm.
resisting something but staying curious.
Hmm. But we're talking about things that we can do, but how would you approach it if, for example, you have a person, let's say at work, your colleague, who doesn't want to go on any contact to resolve the issue?
Um, I've experienced that. And I worked in a place where they brought in coaches, and I think there has to be like you can't force somebody to come to the table, and if they're not willing, like from a personal perspective, professional, relationships, I think if the other person is not willing to come and show up and be part of that conversation, the only thing you can do is kind of be curious about yourself and your own perspective
Hmm.
and your own
Hmm.
actions and reactions. Um, but you can't force somebody else to come to the table because there's a reason that they're kind of like I think I said in the beginning that if somebody's not willing to come and be part of it, or in my own situations, it's because I was more attached to my story than I was
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
making something better. What
Hmm.
about you? Have you had that experience?
I had that experience, and again, when you are going through that with someone else, and you have tried to open a conversation, I'm not saying you're trying to be a bigger person, no, because sometimes it really affects your productivity
Mm,
of other people as well. So you try to have discussion as a grown-ups, as professionals, but if the person really doesn't want to take any steps, even when being approached, I think this the only thing is just to accept it.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
there's not much that you can do about it if they're not willing to, apart from staying open to maybe at another time they might be.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, there are ways. If you want to escalate it, you can always go to HR. You
Yeah,
can, yeah, yeah. There is always a way. But if it doesn't really brings anything, uh, like let's say, it doesn't affect you that much. Yes, it's not a best feeling when you know that someone doesn't like you or
yeah.
someone doesn't want to work with you.
Mm,
Yeah, but it's still okay if it doesn't affect your work or your responsibility in any way, if it's not sabotaging anything. Yeah, that's just let it be. Of course, if there is some
yeah,
difficulties or something personal going on there, that's probably.
I think in my experience with working with people, what I've seen is that you don't necessarily have to like somebody to
Hmm.
be able to collaborate if you're in a
True.
working environment. Working with parents who've separated, you don't have to like the other parent, but you do have a common. I think if you can look at it like, what is your goal,
Hmm.
and if your
Hmm.
goal is to get something done at work or collaboratively, like you have a mission, your or a vision, or in a relationship, um, if you can identify that and that's what you're working towards, that's what you're committed to doing, you might not like someone. but you can
Yeah,
still, I don't know. Does that make sense?
it does. It does. And I've been in HR for over a decade, so
Oh,
I've
so
seen also different
you're well aware.
different
Yeah.
situations as well. Yeah, people would come and yeah, they would say we cannot work together. There are some issues, but usually, if you're working for common good,
Yeah.
if you have one goal, even if you don't like each other, you
Yeah.
can still work it out. You've done your part, I've done my part. As long, again, as you're not trying to sabotage each other and point fingers later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally different level of conflict.
Right. Yeah, and again, I actually I'm a big believer in the solution focused approach, and it's, like if you look for a problem, you're always going to find one.
Mm-hmm.
And but the flip side is true as well. So when you're working together, okay, what's like, there's a solution to being able to do whatever you're required to do for
Mm-hmm.
in your professional life, or as co-parenting, there's requirements that you need to do, and that's what you focus on.
Mm-hmm. Have you coached couples
Um,
in conflict?
not in conflict, not in
Uh,
conflict. Although I have, I'm working on something right now, which is it's like a little mini relationship thing, but it's really something to help people, make people more aware of themselves, and
okay.
coming to the table, like what are they bringing, whether that be beliefs, expectations, unmet, um, not vocalized.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked with couples just more on practical stages of, like, talking through parenting plans,
Mm-hmm.
when they're getting ready to separate. But no, how about you?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Oh,
and it
interesting.
was, yeah, it wasn't long. We had a couple of sessions, but I think it really helped them to start, as you were saying, you listen to understand, not to reply.
Hmm.
Because a lot of conflicts, especially when it's about families or love relationships, we have, again, as you said, Jocelyn, we have high expectations of what another person should be
Yeah.
doing for us. Again, we're expecting other person to make us happy, which is, it's only our responsibility to make ourselves happy. Um, and yeah, again, lots of ego.
Hmm.
There are people who's trying to prove something to others, which is, I don't think is necessary. Once you've chosen a person and you're willing to spend the rest of your life with that person, I don't think ego should be in that relationship with any of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are human. The ego is going to come, it's going to kind of, but I think an awareness of that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I can see, like, there's sometimes, even like in my relationship with my son, I know, like, if I'm stressed and going through, like, if I've got a really busy mind and I'm feeling overwhelmed, I often don't show up as my best with him. Um, and in those moments, like, I can, like, the other day we had, he did something, and I just not, I just got so frustrated with him. But that frustration wasn't coming from what he had done. It was coming from really
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
headspace that I was in. And I think that, again, there's the to me the positive side of conflict is there's so much, information that's available and room for growth.
Hmm.
And I think that when we blame somebody else for the way that we're feeling, we're giving our power away.
Hmm.
So it's like, no, like, own your power, and your power is there. And so I think that when you come from it from that perspective.
Hmm. I agree. There is also, again, for the lack of communication, there is a lot of perception.
Mm, yeah.
And I was about to say something. And yeah, we tend to project a lot of things, how the other person supposedly thinking of us. and that's why they're doing something. So it's our own
Yeah.
thoughts that
Yeah.
we're projecting on someone else, our own experience, our own traumas, our own way of, understanding the world.
Mhm.
We think
Yeah.
another person thinks the same way and feels the same way.
And that's the thing that's so amazing about all of us is that there's no two people on this entire
Hmm.
planet that think exactly the same way.
Hmm.
Um, so that again, there's room for growth there because we impose ourselves on others. And no, that's what you were thinking. That's what
Hmm.
when we have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
I learned from one of my this amazing coaching teacher about imposing yourself and even
Hmm.
like the difference in words. And I see it um, with my mom. Nurses came in and offered her food, and they had asked her if she wanted toast. And so the woman said to me, "Oh, I gave her brown bread because I'm a brown bread girl," which is fine. Comes from the best place, in her heart, but that's her choice. Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So, but it's even like that's a simple example, but how often do we impose ourselves on others? Like how
Hmm.
often do you hear like or did you hear as a kid when something happened, "Oh, you're fine," or "You don't feel that way?" Um and I think that we do a disservice rather than just be like, okay, somebody's feeling a certain way. Again, trying to like listen to understand. And I don't know, but I find it easier having a child and learning
Hmm.
that. I've learned so much from being a parent and coming from that approach.
I agree. I agree. When, especially, I don't know. I have my child when I was much older,
Mm,
so it was interesting to see how different I look at him now. It's like I want to experience, I want to understand how he sees the world
yeah.
because, they are pure
Oh, they're
and they come in, then they come in here and they have to experience all this. And it's like, for me, it's like another chance to relearn about the world through his eyes.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
through
Did
their
I
eyes,
explain
it's
it?
fascinating because it's so different. I mean,
Mhm.
so my son is he's gonna just getting into the teenage years, and it's
Mhm.
fascinating. They're growing up with technology and everybody's got a camera everywhere when everything that you're doing. And so many of their experiences in life, like he came home from school yesterday and said there was a fight at school and everybody was recording it. And it's just like, oh my goodness. But just to see their perception. And then for the teenagers, it's that their brain is growing,
Mhm.
the hormones. And so it's such a gift to be able to really just be like, wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more,
Mhm.
and to really, yeah, they're they're amazing. Even for little
Um,
kids though, too, they're fascinating. They're the best teachers in the world. They live in this world that's like unfiltered and without judgment and without self judgment as well.
mhm.
So, yeah,
Mhm. Oh yeah, the self-judgment is not there yet.
no, but
No, they're still that clean and pure, yeah. They will find a way not to judge
yeah.
themselves.
Well, you just watch a baby when they're learning how to walk. Like how
Mm.
many times do they fall down, but they don't get critical of themselves, and
No,
yeah.
no, no, that's true. Well, what do you say? What would you suggest? Again, not advice, suggest when when someone is have an issue, especially at work, because now the situation that most of the companies asking employees go back to the office
Yeah.
after working from home for so long. And some people got comfortable working from home because you don't have to commute. It's much more easier, even though there is much more work. But going back to the office, going seeing people, communicating with people, it's already starting to show there's lots of conflicts arising. What would you suggest people, especially in the office, how what to do to try, I wouldn't say avoid conflicts, because conflict is kind of part of our life, but make it better. I don't know.
Yeah, I think again, it's that knowing, like, say, like, I was actually one of my clients. She was hired under the premise that she could work
From
remotely.
home. Uh-huh.
She
Hmm.
was a new mom, and so then the company kind of went through a shuffle, and then she wasn't able to, or there was an issue with her working remotely, and so she was feeling like the company had hired her under a false premise because of, so
Hmm.
it's exploring what you like, you know what you're bringing to the table, and is it, oh, sorry, um for her it was that saving 2 hours of her day. She got to spend some time with her child. There was, things like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think it's really understanding, first of all, why, like, if we're feeling challenged by something, is to great coaching conversations are exploring why somebody is feeling the way that they're feeling. Not why, that's not it, not coaching and why,
Hmm.
but just kind of getting into the mindset, the, maybe the beliefs, or the, maybe recurring thoughts that they're bringing to the table. A lot of people are still, I don't know what COVID's like there, but COVID is rampant here, and it's not being it's not being measured, it's not being acknowledged by our government, and so it's challenging. And so people are really feeling challenged about, wearing masks, not wearing masks. So
The safety.
understanding,
Hmm.
and and people have a lot of judgments around that. But I mean, personally, for myself, I have, um, my son's gone through long COVID, and my mother is really ill.
Hmm.
So I wear a mask everywhere, and I'm okay with that because, um, that's my personal choice to do that. So I think there's all these things happening, and people are feeling like if they can't talk about it. And so I think really exploring
Hmm.
why we're feeling the way we're feeling, or why somebody's feeling the way that they're feeling, and being really open to hearing other people's, what it is. A lot of people, maybe after 2 years, got really comfortable in kind of
Yeah.
not engaging in that, or there could be reshuffles. I know what's happened locally here is, like, in the government, there's been a lot of, like, physical reshuffling, and then how are they going to navigate that space? And so there's a lot of unknowns, and when people are dealing with the unknowns, they feel sometimes there's a lot of discomfort around that.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
really unpacking it and getting curious about it.
Yeah, it's a bit stressful,
Yeah.
yes, to go through all so many changes. I mean, it's second year continuously. We just been through so many changes all the time.
And I think it's the lens that you look through. I mean, I heard somebody on the news the other day saying it'd be nice to actually look and have a face to face conversation. And from
Hmm.
my perspective, quite frankly, we've been able to do that throughout, just maybe limitations, but it's not like I haven't been able to sit with anybody. You can sit outside, you
Hmm.
could, often sit inside. So,
Yeah.
but it's just, it's what thoughts we're engaging in with ourselves, checking in there and reflecting on that, and then also understanding the different lens that people look through.
Hmm. And some people are not comfortable with face to face.
Yeah, yeah.
There are introverts who
Yeah.
just like they so far their laptop on their laps and just working through
And
it.
getting dressed from the top up.
Yes, yes, just a tie
Yeah.
with the shorts. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's also again, as you say, probably many people got comfortable at home, but it removed so much hustle in the traffic.
Yeah.
Um, Even without traffic, the commute, just taking time out of home. But on the negative side, you have work, let's say hypothetically, 8 till 6, 9 till 6, and then you're going home. When you're working from home, you don't have working hours,
Yeah. I think that it's funny. I was just talking to a client about this, and it's about like having that boundary for
boundaries.
yourself, for your staff, like, and honoring that.
Mm-hmm.
There's and not just saying that, in a lot of organizations they might be able to say that they value that, but then is
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, are you actually, living that message? So it is
Yeah.
hard. And then for staff too, like you have to, people are like, oh, I'll just check my emails quickly. Well, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
running to the office to do that. So
Yeah. And then one email goes to another email.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you remember you have an idea and you send it to your supervisor,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it just goes snowballing.
Yeah, and I think that again, that's something where the clients I was working with this morning was just that. It's having, recognizing even for your staff that it's important to have that division as well. Um, because I think when you shut off, you show up better.
Mm-hmm.
When you give your mind time to settle, or you shift your focus, um, that's why they say that people get the best ideas in the showers or on vacation. It's because you're not
Yeah.
thinking about it. If you take time
Mm-hmm.
and you step away, your mind settles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the same in conflict as well, actually. One of the metaphors one of my former teachers said, it's like if you stick your foot in a puddle and you swish it around, the water will be all muddy. But if you just kind of take it away, and that'll actually settle on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the same thing in conflict. Not to say that the conflict will be resolved, but when your mind settles, you're able to show up
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
from a better perspective or place.
Yeah. Don't stir up things,
No,
guys.
yeah, yeah.
Just let it settle.
I
Let it
wonder if
settle.
that's where the expression "stir the pot" comes from.
Um,
I don't know.
have no idea. Need to search that. Well, the other probably saying comes from the actual stepping on something
Mm,
and stirring it up.
yeah.
Yeah, but the pot we need to find. Um, yeah, you were saying something, Jocelyn. You're working on something.
Mm. It's a relationship. It's a relationship course. It's just like not,
Okay.
like when people, I actually started it last year doing research into it when my niece was getting married, and and sometimes when I'm coaching people, I'm, like, and you're like, oh, well, how, what conversations have you had about it? And I'm surprised when people are like, well, we haven't talked about it. So it's really something to just kind of get people to, again, a lot of what we've been talking about is that curiosity within yourself and reflection, that self reflection. And then when you're bringing that to the table in a relationship,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the expectation. So it's just exploring some stuff like that. And it's something where I'm doing one that's kind of like a new relationship or new ish, maybe, pre marriage. And then also, um, I think one of the other things I've heard from my clients after a while is that they're complaining about their partner. And it's like, well, they should just know, or they have these expectations, or they've just
Okay.
gotten into a rut.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's to kind of to go through that. So it's just a little program I've been working on putting together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's nice. We can talk about it later as well. The reason I asked, because I am working also on the course.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's more about. Well, I'm actually preparing two mini courses. That once it's done, I'll start advertising.
Oh, tell me what they're
Uh,
about. Is that if you're okay with that?
yeah, one is about self awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's including about your beliefs, your values, your traits, how to exercise self awareness, what does it mean, and so on. And another one, it will be about mental health and well being.
Oh, nice.
It will be short. I don't want to bore people, and it's more like introduction
Mm-hmm.
for people who haven't done coaching yet. So, and then based on that, if they are interested in more deep
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
interaction, then we can do, yeah.
It's such an important thing right now. Such an important
Hmm.
thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's wonderful.
And
They sound both really interesting.
yeah, still in the process, still working. I still need to, again, because We are parents, and you need to find the time, you need to balance, you need to juggle, the
Yeah.
time with the family or something that you can do. And for me, the problem is a flow. Once you start doing something,
Mm,
if I'm interrupted, that's it. I can leave it till I don't know when. But if
yeah.
I'm doing it, I
Same.
can, yeah.
Mm,
So,
definitely, very much so. Yeah. School just went back last week. And so
mhm,
definitely it's that shift in the readjusting to a different schedule and stuff. But
mhm.
yeah, same thing. I'm with you on that. You can be so engrossed in something and really passionate about it, and then all of a sudden it's just like something takes your attention, your children, their homework,
Yeah, yeah,
cooking. It's like, why do they
yeah.
have to eat all the time?
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about it later. Maybe
Mm,
we can do something together. Who knows?
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, were you were there when we were doing the, yes, scarf exercise, the model.
Mm,
Um, it's also very useful in a situation where you feel that something happened that is unjust.
right. Yeah.
So it's a good tool to reflect on the situation and divide it. I'll pull up
I was gonna say,
the,
do you have a thing of it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it. So I remember we used it on the situation that was, especially in COVID times, it was
Yeah.
very
Hmm.
familiar. Yeah, I'll get it done. So when people were losing jobs, for example, it's very unpleasant.
Hmm.
But to deal with the situation, I think Scarf is one of the good tools. So, would you like to go through it?
You go ahead.
Mm.
Have you used this one with clients?
Yes, we
Okay.
had, not only in a break rooms during our
Yeah.
course, but yes, we had, again, the situation was similar. That's why it kind of came up to me like, yeah, that's a good thing to try and use it. So yeah, when scarf is basically it's um, division of these elements. So S stands for status. It's about status, that what you feel your status is in society or in the office or in the family, and how important it is as well, because some people really don't care much about statuses.
Hmm.
Certainty is how certain is your future, basically. And majority of time, future is not certain. We can make plans, but the plans can always change, with unforeseen situations.
I think
But
COVID has taught us about that.
right, right, yeah. Yeah, anything can happen. We couldn't even imagine. So yeah, also when we're talking about certainty, we need to look into our anxiety levels, because anxiety, again, it's that feeling when you're trying to predict something that you don't know is going to happen or not, and then you're trying to resolve the issues that might come up, and that level of worrying. And I'm talking because I know this personally, the feeling. You will create such situations and you will try to resolve them all at once. And those situations may not even happen.
Hmm. More often
So,
than not, they don't happen.
yeah, so you just wasted your time, your energy, all this on stress level that you can use for something else much better. So, yeah, the certainty is one of the reasons how you perceive the future, um, objectively, not subjectively, objectively,
Mhm.
basically. You need to come out of this. Uh, like tunnel vision. When
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at the situation only from very, very close circle, you cannot see the bigger picture. Autonomy is, yeah, what kind of control you can have over the situations. Going back to CIA, if you can
Mm-hmm.
control, influence, or you can accept it. Um, Relatedness, well, that's basically how you relate to other people. Either you're having conflict, or either your friends, or either your family. So, and in a situation where I used it, when a person lost a job. So we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about the colleagues, we're talking about managers, we're talking about family as well, how they accept the news or how you can break the news to them. So we looked at the different levels of society that you connected to. And yeah, the famous F, the fairness, F word, fairness, yes. How you perceive the situation. Was it fair or not? From which side it was fair? Because it cannot be 100% unfair. There is
Mm-hmm.
some parts it it was the only option. For example, in that situation, the company was downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, maybe it's not fair to you personally, but from perspective of employer, they decided based on different levels of information, they decided it's you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just need to be accepted in a way that it's not against you personally. Life is not against you. um, Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. So just see it a bit, it just gives you a bit of different perspective.
You know,
So
did you ever read Viktor Frankl? Oh gosh, why am I forgetting the name of the book? Has slipped me right now. He was one of the Auschwitz survivors, and I thought he was amazing in that he was speaking at one point about hope and how he had
mhm.
hope when he was in the concentration camp. And somebody said, "Well, how on earth could you have hope in that situation?"
Yes,
Do you?
yes,
And he
yes.
said,
You just reminded me about
like,
situationness
so
and hope.
when all the people got together and like their ration of food was so minute,
Hmm.
but they gave it to the person that was really sick. And what
Hmm.
he saw in that was hope of humanity. And it stuck with me. It's funny how these
Hmm.
certain things can stick with you, but that one
Hmm.
definitely stuck with me. And it's, because your perception is really, really important.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the good thing, as a coach, I found you can change someone else's perspective, perception of the things, and it solves most of the problems. They have
Hmm.
this aha moment, and they try to use what we used in a coaching session. And then they
Yeah.
come next time and say, you know what? I never thought of that. I never tried to.
Yeah.
Camera went off. Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Something is wrong with internet. I am connected. I
Mm,
don't know why they're still showing me on Wi-Fi. I am connected to the wire.
mm,
Anyway, so yeah, it's we just see. The more I'm thinking about how I used to look uh, at coaching or self-development or self-help books in the libraries or bookshops, I couldn't understand why people would go. Like, if you're talking about me when I'm like 20 years ago, I would think you're an adult, you should know why you need another help from someone.
yeah.
Uh, like, you should know, you should figure out by now. And and then you reach in the point in your life, or something happens that you start rethinking,
Mm,
the purpose and why this happened, and trying to find answers and whatever, even with yourself, sitting with yourself.
mhm.
And then you once you've gone through that, and you find for yourself thing that works for you, you have that feeling you want to help others
Mm,
to be less stressed, less expectation equal less disappointment. uh, many things. And the problem with being a coach, you cannot advise.
no.
So you have to go circles and circles and circles, um, working with the person, and you feel like you have the answer, but you cannot give it. It's not the practice that you.
But I do think then that there's two things in there that you said, Daria, that I think it's important to notice that you might have the answer that you think that they need,
Yeah, I think that
however,
they need.
that
Yes,
you
I
think that
think
they need.
yes. Yeah, I think
Um,
yeah.
but it's that knowing that, like, there's the thing, having the conversation and asking what else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, and really getting them to explore, because I don't know, but I love when you see the light bulb go on for somebody. I was
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to somebody this morning talking about their research in microaggressions, and it's just like looking at like little gestures and stuff like that. Um, but when you can see when somebody has an insight of some sort, and it's just when they get to see what works for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty, but and I don't know about you, but I don't know if you ever experience where somebody's talking to you and you're like, oh, I'd really like to have a coaching conversation with you around
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah. Many times.
Yeah.
But then again, those people did not reach that level yet.
Yeah. It's different, but I think coaching is really powerful. But on the flip side of that, I think if somebody wants to come to coaching, often people will approach me and I will have a conversation with them to see, like, really, because coaching isn't us telling someone what to do. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
people get frustrated by that. And it's like,
Some
why?
people
But
expect that. Yes, I'm
they
coming to
do.
you
And
as a
that's the
coach.
thing
Yeah.
where it's like being really, really clear about what coaching is and
Hmm.
isn't. So, yeah.
Hmm. I really wish it was so easily. You just come to the coach, and they're giving you the instruction of what things to do,
Yeah.
and then you do them, and they are correct. They helped you.
Yeah. But I think that we
Yeah.
realize, like, I don't know about you, but for me, I certainly think that the most growth I've had as an individual has come from the most challenging things. And so I think if
Hmm.
I remember actually, when I was separated, and one of my friends gave me a card, and I still have the card because I think it's amazing. What he wrote was, I wish I could pick you up and take you forward through this challenging time in your life, but I
Mm.
can't. But I will be at the finish line cheering you on. And I've reflected on that so much since then, because it's true. Nobody else can go through your experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
from that, you see things about, and this is what I love about people, and I think that people underestimate their value and their potential in so many ways. And so I think
Hmm.
that we realize often when we don't think that we can do something, that
Oh
we're
yeah,
underestimating ourselves. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
definitely. I don't think there is a any person that I know, famous or unfamous, regular person, that found self growth without facing any issues.
Yeah.
You don't grow if you don't have, can't find a word. It was just something around. Uh, yeah, easy life doesn't make strong people,
There's a
basically.
quote, I'm just looking it up. It's amazing. It's like something about an unexamined life.
Hmm.
Um, I'm always good.
Yeah,
Elsa,
sure.
an unexamined life is not worth living, which is Socrates. And it's just kind of one of these things. I think when people, it makes me sad when I see people kind of not being the victim, but kind of putting themselves in that
Mm-hmm.
context throughout their life, because I feel like that's really giving your power away all the time to
Mm-hmm.
somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
And
just
wasting
think
so much
wasting,
time on
yeah,
life,
yeah,
not
yeah.
enjoying.
And
Mm-hmm.
not really realizing, um, not really realizing how much you've done. Like, actually, there's one of the, I just did it this morning with a client, was the leadership timeline, but doing it on a personal level. And it's one of
Mm-hmm.
these things where when we acknowledge, and I've done that with some of my clients, and it's usually they see the times when they've grown the most, or just come to a new understanding or place within themselves. Has been through challenging times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, life lessons. And
Mm-hmm.
again, without challenging times, it's basically conflicts in our life as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at it, it can be conflict with someone else, it can be conflict with a
Yeah.
situation, it can be conflict with
Within
I don't know, with
yourself,
some within, yeah,
you know
exactly. Yeah.
like you feel conflicted about, like last week I had to make a really, really difficult choice, and it really, it had me reflecting on what my boundaries were, and kind of,
Hmm.
yeah, I was really conflicted, but not
Hmm.
not conflicted with the decision that I had made, but the communicating it to somebody else. So yeah, I do. I think that, but through that, I learned to really kind of sit with what was important to me and why it mattered, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, so conflict can be a good thing.
Hmm.
Once again, we're coming back to that.
Full
So
circle.
no, yeah. Well, not trying to be victims, not trying to be, conflict. Learn from it. If there is something you can influence or control, if not, accept and move
Hmm.
on. No, I don't think there's a lot of things in life that worth just spending a lot of time on it.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, there are difficult things that leave in a very deep scar on us. We have different situation that we experience trauma, and we have to live through that. Yes, go get help if you feel like you need it. But this also teaches us how to navigate in different direction. If we didn't experience that, we would never learn about ourselves, something
Hmm.
important about ourselves.
Yeah, I do. I think when you see, like, I have one of my clients who's gone through an extremely challenging situation, and I think she's discovered so many things about herself and gifts about herself that she never would have said were
Mhm.
present at the
Mm.
beginning of her journey. But she's amazing, and to see that. And the work I do with women and children who've been trafficked, same thing.
Mhm.
Like they just undervalue and underestimate themselves. And yeah, I think it's an important thing to it's
Yeah.
I just, when you said the CIA, what I was thinking of with the acceptance part of that is that we cause so much internal struggle for ourselves, and like internal conflict from not being able to accept or willing to kind of accept certain things. um yeah, it just kind of made me think about that in a different way. And it's just like when we're
Mhm.
always fighting against something, that there's
Mhm.
so much discomfort inside.
But in that case, we're fighting with ourselves.
Yeah.
No one else will know
Yeah.
it. No one else will care. No one else
Yeah.
going through that. We're
Yeah.
just doing it to ourselves.
Oh, we do that all the time, though. I was thinking of
Mhm.
that the other day because I had created in my mind what my schedule was going to look like that day. And then something happened to throw it off. And then I was so stressed. But I was the one who created the
Yeah.
schedule. So,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
was like, I created it. I was stressed that I wasn't living up to it. And it was just making
Mhm.
me feel bad. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Ask any other person. Do they care? No.
I know. Not really. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, try to be kinder to yourself. Again, we
Definitely.
know these kind of things and we're
I
still
know.
doing them. Yeah. But the good thing that you're aware of that, you
Mm,
kind of catching yourself on it.
yeah.
It's more easier to navigate once you caught yourself. Okay, what are you doing? CIA, accepted, move on.
Yeah. And you know what, that awareness, like the other day when I was saying, like, I snapped at my son, like it was, as soon as I did it, I was like, oh my goodness, like, I think that self-awareness of, at the moment, my quality of my thinking was really low. Like I was just
Mhm.
caught up in so many thoughts.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's such a valuable thing to be able to go to somebody else and say, I'm sorry. Like I was really caught up in my
Mhm.
thoughts, and that, that
Mhm.
was, I think that there's something really humbling in that. And for kids, they're always like, Finley's always amazed when I do that. He's like, the first time I apologized to him, he was like, what? And then he came to some workshops with me. This was years ago, and I shared a story of one time he spilt milk and I yelled at him, and because we have a very kind of quiet, chilled house, and that doesn't happen very often. So it was upsetting for him. It was upsetting for me. So I've told that story when I've done workshops with kids, and then when he used to come with me, he would be like, "Oh yeah, she yelled at me," Then he'd get up and he'd tell the whole story.
From
um,
his perspective, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's really a valuable thing to be able to just acknowledge. And I think the
Mhm.
more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it.
Mhm. Also, I was just thinking when you were talking about, yeah, the conflict, we also forget when we have a conflict with someone else. Yeah, we talked about conflict within us,
Hmm.
but when we have conflict with someone else, we forget that this person might be going through something that
Hmm.
we have no knowledge about, or we
Yeah.
have, even if we will ask them, they probably will not share it. So just, yeah, the switching of perspective really works in that situation. So you just put yourself on that person position and imagine that there is something in their life going on that they don't have control right now. Maybe they use in this moment to just release that energy, that burning inside, that they cannot do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
And then again, in that situation, if that helps you show up differently for that person too,
Hmm.
and for
Hmm.
that person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably nothing personal. It's something that the person going through at the moment, and just the moment of explosion of emotions.
The other thing, I don't think we've touched on this, but be willing to be wrong. Be willing for your perception
Hmm.
of the situation to be wrong.
Hmm. Hmm.
From a personal experience that happened with me last year, um, with a family member, and they, their what their perception of my choices and my
Hmm.
intentions were completely off. Um, and I reached out and I said that, I expressed it in different ways, but they weren't willing to listen to that. And I think that
Hmm.
that's a key part of conflict too, is that you have to be willing to be wrong in your
Hmm.
perception or your understanding of
Hmm.
something. And that's
Yeah.
the fun part of coaching, bringing it back there is kind of being curious about that with someone.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, Jesseline, it's been an hour.
Yeah,
Um, I haven't prepared the unpopular opinion for today.
good.
Good. No, but we've touched up about so many things. Like I
Right.
was thinking to talk about little bit, about conflicts being a good thing, but we kind of already touched up on that.
Excellent. So
But
we've
if
already
you
done
have, yeah, if you have anything that you've heard about conflicts that is not a very popular opinion, we can use it for our
it.
unpopular
Oof.
opinion.
Hmm.
I know some
No.
people, yeah, I know some people actually, this is their character. I don't know, it's their personality. They
Yeah.
like they like to pick on fights and conflicts.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm better now, but before I would avoid it, at most costs. But again, that's not great because
Hmm.
you lose out. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what would be an unpopular opinion. I don't know. Conflict is
Yeah.
just fascinating, and I think that
Hmm.
even the word, I don't know, for me is there's a visceral something when I hear of conflict, but um and it's funny because a lot of people going through separation here, they have the option to go through conflict resolution, or
Hmm.
collaborative. Um, and I just think the conflict and resolution, it's such a it's such a dichotomy to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
opposite. Yeah,
I
opposite
think it's
words.
fascinating. I think that when you are feeling in conflict and maybe um, internally about something going on, somebody's experience, opinion, whatever. Um, I think one of the best gifts that you can give yourself is to get really, really curious with that.
Hmm.
And again, you don't have to have a conversation with the other person to really. And you know what? It's one of these things where it's peeling back the layers and being really honest.
Hmm.
What's your role? Nobody likes to be accountable, and nobody likes to be part of something. But there's a reason, that there's two or more people involved in the conflict.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, okay, to sum it up, I
Yeah.
I think the idea just came to me. Just bear with me. I'll try to formulate it. The person you are, no, the person who's having conflict with you in the first place, they're having conflict with themselves,
Mm,
and then it just reflects on you because being at peace. Sorry, it's 11 o'clock at night here. Yeah, yeah, I'm allowed to
you're
misspeak a
allowed.
little bit. Yeah. What was I saying? Yes. Being at peace with yourself will not bring a conflict somewhere
Mm,
between you and someone else. So when once you see that someone is, picking a fight or trying to create some issues, there is an issue there with them,
mhm,
firstly, and then it comes to others.
yeah.
And when you see someone is having when you are, let's say, part of the conflict, you're one of this giving or receiving, you also need to be ready, as you said, Jesseline, you can be the person who is creating the conflict.
Mhm,
So you should be willing or be ready to discover it within yourself that maybe you're the problem. And it's not
yeah.
nothing like nothing scary about it. We probably at one point of our lives, every one of us tried. Yeah, and
It's a, you know what, in conflict, in every conflict, there's opportunity to learn and there's opportunity for growth.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
and if you show up curious and open, then I think that's amazing. That gives you that invitation.
Yeah, don't take it personal. Take it as a learning curve. Yeah, good.
Perfect.
I think I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me
Thank you.
too. This was really nice.
Yeah, and thanks for getting back to me. You see, you're my savior.
Yeah.
Uh, and other ladies that promised to come in today, well, no hard feelings. I'll see you next time. You know,
No conflict.
anytime, whenever you come. Yeah. But thanks, Jocelyn.
You're
And
welcome.
stay for a little bit
Yeah.
after we'll close up. But whoever is watching us now or watching us in the records, yep, thank you. Just quick reminder: we are here on Thursdays live, and we're discussing about different things.
Mm.
And Jocelyn has been with us a couple of times now. So hopefully to see you again. And thank you very much. Thanks, Jocelyn.
You're welcome.
I'll see you in a bit.